Right, here we are in the Conquistadors, ready to push on into the next turn. I did the strategic discards before I'm shuffling these guys in. I don't know if that's right or not. I forgot to check that rule about removing counters as needed. I don't think there's any restriction on it. It really isn't clear who it helps, you know. Once you've established sort of a base, towns and whatnot, you probably aren't going to need them. I gotta look it up. I'm not going to do it in front of you. One thing that's kind of interest, this game has sparked me, and I had something that I was supposed to clip the counters for, started to, and they're a mess, like falling apart and stuff. So, and don't really clip their side mounters. So I was trying to scrape them, and I'm like, this is just not working good. Clipping side mounted is just such a bitch, and these are bad ones. But it's sort of another adventure type game in the sense that, like, it's not really, a simulation. It's not very heavy. It's not very deep. This is heavier than the one I'm looking at, but from a much earlier era. And I think I'm gonna do that as my next game, just because I don't really feel like getting right into the stuff from the Talavera box. So yeah, people discarded their cards. Some of them were kind of valuable seeming cards. So like the rediscovery card, that got thrown away. Why? Because I found my stuff. I don't need to go down there, whatever. I found my imperial cities. Once that's happened, I cope with those, and any other exploration is really kind of unimportant until and unless I drain them, as historically happened. So now I got a lot of shuffling to do. It's a big deck of cards, which means, it's not just 7 quick shuffles like a 52 card deck. I end up breaking it into pieces to do the shuffling. One thing, kind of surprising, I don't know why. I don't really recall. Actually I do. The No Peace Without Spain system, I think, had very stiff cards. This has wonderfully shuffleable cards. This is something where they definitely got it right. Maybe because they're cheaper, and with such a big deck, they wanted to do it. But I got to tell you, I really appreciate these guys have a lot of flex to them, and that makes it so much easier to cope with, especially with a large deck. I've gotten in the habit since Leipzig of giving kind of the story this far. And I think that's a good thing because, it could be several days, a week, sometimes a month between uploads, depending on the game. This is fast enough and I'm running through it fairly quickly. But so what has happened in the various places? So we had Alvarado come down here, and he's been kind of bumbling around, not finding much. Almagro has headed down here and was joined up by De Soto in his mission. Things were going well. He discovered an empire. That's sort of the way to win this game, is to find an empire and pillage it. However, he's had a couple of bad fights on his hands. He's got a couple morale hits. His force is weakened. He's out of artillery. His cav is low. He's going to be looking for additional troops. So if he draws a conquistador, it'll be something useful to him to bring in some reinforcements. Of course, the more conquistadors he has, the more any division of spoils becomes painful, because conquistadors do take a relatively hefty sum, if I recall correctly. Then over here, this was originally Cortez's expedition, and I mean, he's already got 2. Everybody's got 2 except Alvarado, who left, who did not take his additional down there, and is reserving him to go explore Florida and try to find the Mississippi River there, I think. I don't remember what it was. No, El Dorado. Okay. Not in the right place, but, that's cool. primarily because Florida is the easiest access to finding neat things. Is the Fountain of Youth in this one? Yeah, cool. So is Prester John. Okay. And so Cortez was killed fairly early on. He got replaced by Pedro de Cieza de Leon, who then was joined by Cordoba. Cordoba is the better leader and hasn't really been succeeding too much. He got kind of stymied here, but is now working his way in a different direction towards a possible empire there. Over on the southern map, Pizarro decided to strike deep south. He failed to find an empire in sort of the first area that he could, and is now carving his way deeper into the south. Not in bad shape, joined by Pounce de Leon, Pounce the Lion. Okay. And Balboa is here. Now, he lost his... he had Juan Velasquez de Leon with him. I think Balboa came in first. He's lost his reinforcement leader, which might be a good thing, but he's run into a bunch of hostile cities, people slapping nastiness on him, because that's how events happen in this game, is through play of the strategy cards. And in addition to getting close to being able to find an empire, although not finding it yet, but if either one of these triggers as an empire, well, if the first one of those triggers as an empire, he's good, but he can't fail. If he goes into one and fails, there will not be an empire up here unless he has the ability to remove a counter somehow. In addition, he picked up a rumor of the Amazon way up here. Hey, it's how the game works, man. It's kind of interesting because you fight your way to it. This would be wherever the headwaters are for it. So, you wouldn't be looking for you wouldn't be looking for the mouth of the Amazon here, because that would be down here if this was on the board. Anyway, now it's time to start selecting our draw our hands up to 10 and throw shit away. And I will try to remember to do a random events phase after initiative. Looked up the recycling rules, and they're not as simple as I thought. I thought you could just pick something up. No, it has to be the furthest from any expedition, which more or less is going to guarantee that you're going to be cutting something way back here, somewhere where somebody initially landed, probably, because you can see we've made quite a distance here, quite a distance here. Over here, everything's kind of close to Balboa. Here, he's kind of circling around close. If they're equidistant, the person that is taking it gets to choose which one it is. Now, obviously, though, villages are along here, but villages I'm not very short on. It's towns that I'm short on, which will be kind of in the middle space, which might be a little easier, a little harder to find. Curious, I don't know why you would be, but it does seem kind of interesting to me, at least. Most of the players drop themselves to like one card or less. This guy is the one guy who held a handful of cards. He had 2 Mano de Dioses. They're so valuable, you don't want to get rid of them. You don't want to play them when they're not necessary, so you hold them. The El Dorado, which is really kind of questionable, but I feel like I need to keep a legend for this. And then a theft card, which lets me take gold from somebody when they have it. Again, something so special and limited that, I just want to have that in my hand. Everybody else managed to recycle their hands pretty well. Work my way through those cards. I wanted to point this guy out. I don't know if I did on my pipe video. I don't know if I had it then. This is an all plastic stem and not like a resin. I remember I gave my dad a resin plastic pipe This is just like, Fisher-Price toy plastic. But the way it works is down below the bowl is like a little chamber where you put some little stones to help absorb some of the wetness and some of the gunk. Gives it a little bit more time between cleanings, because otherwise you might have to clean it multiple times while you're smoking a single bowl. No, but it would clog pretty quickly. And then, this is just briar or something on top. Just really, really weird build. I don't really like it. I use it when I go in the bath because it's plastic. I had to rush to tell you that pipe was out and I needed another one. Now, I'm working on Almagro here, who's currently the leader in the game and has a hand of cards I can't figure out what to get rid of. So, Voyagers of Fortune gives me troops. Doctor is good. Local guide, how important? I can probably do without this. I don't have the Indian guide, which it would make up for, but I've found my empire, so that's going to be one of my discards. Disgruntled soldiers, I can screw with someone like Balboa here, who's kind of challenging me, so I kind of don't want to get rid of that. Human sacrifice, this must be a one of a kind. The Spanish forces take a morale hit immediately. And if any Spanish unit suffers a hit in combat, this is played in combat. If any Spanish unit suffers a hit in combat, the governor index goes back in another space for at least one hit for eating some of the Spaniards. So I want to keep that. That's just too cool not to have. Letter from the Crown allows me to cancel an arrest warrant that's played against me. Since I'm in the lead, that seems like a good idea to keep that. So these are all interesting. Disgruntled soldiers. Well, I've already kept one. Kind of glad I don't have any. Do I want to pick on people more than once? Yeah, kind of. Likewise, poison darts is interesting because it can assassinate, and I got 2 Indian uprisings. I got to choose something to get rid of for this. Now, Indian uprisings are really useful. I can schwack Balboa with those, for example. Oh no, no wait, I have an ambush and an uprising. The ambush I'm probably less interested in, but it could be useful in an attack here. The uprising is kind of interesting. This is so unlikely to do much to anyone that I think I'm going to get rid of this and the local guide. Now, of course, the other players don't know, what I'm doing, but when it's such a hard choice and there were so many interesting cards, I felt like it was worth, taking a peek. Trying to decide what Pizarro wants to throw away, and he has 3 cards that are, I think, problematic. These Buena Suerte ambos. I have my 2 people together. They're heading in one direction. I don't have a legend. There's no reason for me to have those. However, I may have a card that's even worse than useless, which is this creditor's demand payment. I seem to remember it being ineffectual. 16.25. Let's just look at this again. The creditor's demand payment is used against a player who has both positive permanent victory point total and outstanding debt. The player must use any pesos he has to pay off the outstanding debt. If he can't pay it all off, then he reduces his permanent victory point total by the amount of the outstanding debt, but never less than 0. This reduction is permanent, and then his debt goes back to 0. That, honestly, you could play that against yourself. If you had, very few victory points, it would be valuable. How big? That's the only usage I see of it, because it's not a bad card against someone. So I have 8 debt. If Pizarro could come up with some money, this would be worth it, but I'm going to hold on to one of these. I don't think I can even use it against myself. So remember, outstanding debt, you have to pay it off with money, with pesos or gold or whatever. They're the same thing. It just depends on how you expend it. It's 1-for-1. It's no problem. But if the game ends and you have outstanding debt, the outstanding debt is worth 2 victory points each. This would allow you to discharge that debt for 1 victory point per point of debt, which is better than you're going to pay at the end of the game. And it could just be for all your for whatever victory points you have, all your debt is erased. So if I had like 1 victory point, I could erase all my debt for that with this card. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I have any victory points, and it's going to be, you know, probably a couple turns before I have them. It's just not worth holding on to. So everybody's cards have been moved. It's time to do initiative and then random events, damn it. I got to remember. Order of play is quite shaken up. Now it's the pale green Balboa first, then blue. I have trouble blue and green. That's my eyes. I can tell, but it takes a little bit more focus than I like. Then the white. Blue and green are white is him, and then finally Pizarro at red. And now we do it. We roll the random events. You can't play Hand of God to affect this. The initiative player rolls it, but it doesn't really make a difference. So we get a 6. There's always one. Legend moves. Choose one legend on the map randomly and move it. 19.22. Okay, well, there's only one legend on the map. Too bad he played it. Because it's the Amazon, it's stuck here. It must move. It rolls on a 2 through 6. It'll move to one of those. On a 1, I got to re-roll. So it shifts down here, which is not that terrible. So we find that the Amazon actually does not start up there, but rather the headwaters are over here, still within reach, nowhere near as pleasant a place for me to see them. That's going to put me at start of initiative, and I need to get away for a little bit, I think. I'm going to say one thing. Although, you know, at some level or another, I really, really respect and take a certain kind of pleasure in my war games. It is fun to be just playing something that's kind of shits and giggles, you know. And I feel like this is in that realm. It's just, you know, it's simple. It's multiplayer. These are the kind of games that I enjoy playing with others more. I don't tend to play war games with others. I don't know quite what the mindset is that gets me to play, especially the large tactical stuff and even the large strategic stuff, but not so much. But yeah, there's just something. There's sort of a comfort game feeling to this, right? The same way there is to, I bring up Britannia as an example of this kind of play, where I don't have to worry too much, you know? And it does still have that. Sure, there's the annoyances of dealing with the cards, solitaire and everything, but I think it's why I want to do this other game afterwards, is because I'm just having more fun than, to whatever extent I have fun. It's almost like the war games are a chore, but like they define who I am, so I have to play them. I don't know. I mean, it's not like, oh, I have to play them because it's on video. No, I'd be the same. I was always this way. I was like, oh, yeah, but I have a lot of war games, and I really do. There is something that I cannot get, you know, from these lighter games that I get from the war games, but it's not sort of a fun value. It's more of a, well, it gives a deep narrative, which allows me to picture things very nicely. Not so much when I play with the camera. And it's also sort of the accomplishment of getting through. You know, especially the bigger the game, the more I feel this sort of, oh yeah, I gotta press through, I gotta see, but I also have to see where the story goes. Here, I'm actually not so worried about where the story goes. I'm concerned, and this is like in Geronimo, about all the competitive moves that are in play. And every now and then, you know, just like with the war games, I'll step back and look at the story and think about it a little bit, do my drumming and whatever. So Balboa is gonna go first. He's gonna open things up with a letter to the governor, or letters to the governor, which are being written by people in this organization here to further reduce his index. This may be kind of iffy because he's already behind the 8 ball on that, but now, yes, you saw it, but I looked away. Just causes some problem, and there's nothing that you can do to counter that. There's the warrant thing, letter from the Crown, which can cancel a warrant, but it can't prevent the governor from disliking you more. All right, I'm planning on playing the ultimatum to get rid of my hits. This is a reaction. Suspicion of treason. Somebody has to have Indians in their group. Nobody's managed to keep them. Governor's daughter. Use influence through a liaison between a member of your faction and the governor's charming daughter. You get a bonus in your side. Yeah, let's do that. I am the kind of yellowish guy, so I'll go up to a +1 and get some victory points. A lot of interesting stuff in my hand. Then I'm going to play the ultimatum, which gets rid of all my morale hits. But on a 1 through 3, I lose a unit. Nope. And this wouldn't hurt me in terms of the governor because they return back. Now, I get my action. I'm in a hostile city. That's not the best place to be. I've got to find something. This has been cleared up, so this direction doesn't seem terribly useful. So we'll go there. And now I got to break away because I got to look through everybody's hand, see if anybody wants to interfere with him. Because if we prevent him here, he's not getting an empire. I'm pissed off Almagro. Almagro plays an Indian ambush. And Cordoba up here throws in some painted warriors, making the units triple instead of double. I have the tactical advantage card. Yeah, I'm going to play that because this is an ambush and my horses would be canceled out otherwise. I wasn't going to play it because of the horses, but that's fine. And I guess might as well play through the whole combat. This is going to be 3 counters because it's a level 3 or 4 space. So it's a big one. Oh, it's 2 big ones. Okay, so that's 90. Kind of doesn't matter, except that these have a backside to them. Okay, so I get to attack with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 43, and 8 is 51. I'll be on the 50 table at +1 in combat. This ultimatum's been played. +2 for the artillery. And I get a 7. I don't have a way to modify that. So all I do is 1 hit. We'll hit one of these. So that makes 55, 65. Now I get my counter strike instead of simultaneous. 65 times 3. I'm on the 60 or more table. The painted warriors was kind of a waste, but I didn't know. I'm making people play their cards before the chits are drawn. And so that gets a 6. That's just going to be 1 hit. The guy who played the ambush is in charge of deciding what. I'll hit the artillery, I think. Knocking that extra +1 out is useful. I gotta fight at least 1 more round and then I can back out if I don't like the way things are going. but this is only in the first round of combat, so it's gone. My strength is the same. I'm still 50 at +2. So I get an 8 this time. That's going to be 2 hits. 1, 2. He's still going to be above 60. He's still tripled. He gets 2 hits. There goes the artillery and a horse. Now something's died. That's going to affect the governor. I can do that right away. Oh, there goes my sweetheart. She no longer loves me. Okay. And this is gone. Now I got to think. Do I want to face 50 with my own, gonna lose another guy, etc. Now, if I withdraw, though, I take a morale hit from that. But I think I've got to. Now, these guys, under the rules as written, would stay on the space, but the errata says no. And let me take a look at, make sure that's a 1-point morale hit, otherwise I may have to fish those guys out. About the morale hit, that only happens if you retreat through territory. Oh, wait a minute. That's hostile. Uh-oh. That might be a lot of morale hits if I'm not careful. Oh, I may not be able to leave if it's bad enough. I forgot I'm looking at a hostile space. Blah, blah, blah. Retreat after combat. Unit that has no option but retreat into a space that's either hostile or... Okay, if you have no option... Okay. This is painful. Attacking units must retreat to the space they entered from. If a unit has no option but to retreat into an undiscovered space. No, I have to go into that one. May not stop. It continues retreating until it reaches a bad space. Yeah, so, I would be, because I came from here, and I could have chosen to come this way, I'm going to have to retreat back to here, because that's discovered. Now, I screwed up by my choice, and I'm going to give myself a mercy rule exemption there, because I could have moved that way. I would still get the same discovery modifiers. And I'm getting kind of hammered here. It's not like I, am particularly in favor of Balboa, but I just feel like it's a little unfair that I get screwed up by a rule that, I'm just kind of learning, as it were. And so this ambush is done and was mostly successful. Yellow is done and moves there. To Cordoba, he has some interesting things. First thing, before I looked at my cards, which changed stuff, so I'm looking at this city and I'm like, do I want to do a diplomacy there? Maybe it ends up an allied city. Maybe I want my food now. But the problem is, now is early. If I grab my food now, everybody's still got all their nasty cards. And I'm not in that bad a position. I'm, 2 away from a potential imperial city. Sure, there's other people who are close too. But, I don't know that they're not going to pick on me. Luckily for me, I have the Comida card, which lets me just grab a food. A ship came with some food for me. And that's all I really need from the advantage. I have these bearers. They're not really helping me. Bears aren't very helpful. But then I'm going to try to assassinate someone. Now, it's a conquistador I'll be going for, which means I need an 11 or 12. It's almost a waste to go for Almagro, even though he's in the lead. Pizarro would be, you know, the obvious choice. So I'm going to just plink at him because he's so good. You know, I want to knock him out, even though he's not really winning the game, or he's, in fact, the furthest from an empire right now. But I get nothing. And then I will explore a space forward, which might cause an issue. He's not going to do it. He used his one ambush. None here. He's kind of pissed. I don't think I have anything. Pizarro's kind of pissed. Somebody took a shot at him. Okay. So there cannot be any damaging natives there because none of my opponents have the cards for that. Which is okay. I don't mind the luck factor in it. What I mind is the fact that they get to choose to use them against me. But I've talked about that plenty. We're looking at a level 3 on a city. That's perfectly fine. There are no bonuses. Those are bears, not an explorer. I roll a 4. It's another city, which is good. Now I am one space away from a potential imperial space, and you know, nothing's in my way, right? My next exploration could find it. Onward to Almagro. I didn't play this, but this card actually shows that the way I'm doing it is probably the right way. Maybe played in any combat between Indians and Spanish. Spanish forces immediately takes 1 morale hit. If any Spanish unit suffers a hit, shift the governor index. So I couldn't do it, you know, it's not absolute, but I'm assuming I couldn't do it after the hit was taken. And I couldn't do it in the same way, I would say, before the chits are drawn, right? Or after the chits are drawn. That's all information that I feel like these modifiers, you have to take your chances on whether or not to play them. I probably would have played that, but I didn't. But I got a bunch of disgruntled soldiers. Got Voyagers of Fortune. That gets me a foot unit. That's great. I'll take it. I've got a Doctor. That'll repair one of my 2 morale hits. Do I want to play that now? Yeah, because 2 morale hits is dangerous if there's a fight. Got an Indian uprising. I could cause someone some grief. Not him. I could cause him grief. Cause him grief. I don't remember what the numbers are again. They're listed here. They're not listed here, just the reference, so that I look it up in the rolls, which, you know, fucking is obnoxious. So 12, 3, 4, 1, I think, but I'm not positive. There are 2 references there. One of them will get me close. Yeah. One, 2 for a non-imperial city, 3 for an imperial city or capital. You know, I'd rather hold on to this until somebody finds a capital and then fuck them over worse. But disgruntled soldiers I can definitely play. There's no limit to the number of cards I can play in a turn or in an impulse. So who do I want to hit? Well, he's fine. He didn't take any morale hits. There's one person. I will play it against Alvarado because why not? I roll 1 dice, add the number of morale hits, it's +1. That's not very good, but nobody's in a lot of trouble. I get a 6. That's going to destroy 1 unit that I get to choose. I'll take his cannon out. That's how the other cannon got taken out. The first cannon got taken out of the game. Okay. Now I've pissed somebody else off, but, you know, I'm doing so well. However, I am in a hostile city. That is not the optimal place for me to deal with. I could go to this imperial city, or I could aim for the gold, as it were, and try to get go up for the king. How is my diplomacy? My diplomacy's at 2. I don't really have anything that works with it. This is an imperial city. What's the penalty of hostile? -3. That's no good. So we will rush over to here. And that's all we're doing. We're just doing a move. You can't combine that with another action, except combat. Okay. And that puts me to the whiteys. Turned out really nasty. Moved into here, blew up here, played an Indian ambush, and got a reasonable sized force. Remember, an ambush doubles them, no cav attack, damn good roll, boxcars, ended up causing 4 hits. He's not allowed to retreat. You have to stick around for 2 rounds in a fight. The exception to that is if you're an all cav force. The other exception is if you're encircled and it's 4 rounds instead of 2. So I'm facing in a really nasty position here. Luckily, this is decreased. It's down to 30. Still not great. Chances are I'm going to get hurt. 30 with a 6 is another hit. So I'm going to kill a cav. And on his side, it's 24, and 4 is 28 at +2 for the combat. Which, ew, that did not hit. So I may need to retreat too. White falls back and is also disliked by the governor. Everybody's hated. It can't really afford to take losses. So I'm going to fall back. Now, here's the thing. There would be a problem if I was following the original rules, in terms of, like, there would be enemy troops here that I would have to deal with. But with that update, they're not there. And I don't take any morale hits for this. But yeah, that was not a good combat for him. He may want to start bringing Balcazar down to try to join him instead of continuing on. But the problem is he needs to feed this expedition. So, you know, he's going to have to do things. But he got foiled in his path towards imperial searching. As much about Pizarro, he probably should have done a diplomacy, got himself some food. He doesn't have any. I'm in such a hurry, though, to get, you know, to something nice, because I'd want to do diplomacy at the bigger place and start getting gold or whatever. But instead I went into here at a -3 for the village and ended up finding nothing, which really means I'm going to have to inch my way elsewhere. These -1s really did hurt. In addition, I played the intrigues at court, got no effect out of that. And that ends the impulse. I'm feeling awfully fatigued. I think I'm going to break here. I think I want to take a nap because I have a couple hours before I need to hit an event in my computer game. And the way I sleep nowadays, it's like I sleep 2 hours, I'm awake 2 hours. I sleep 2 hours, I'm awake 2 hours. I was awake the whole day though, which is very, very tiring. Okay, so starting on this second impulse. Now, I've been really busy with my game playing most of the night, and worse than that, at the same time, kind of fiddling around with a new chatbot I found that I really like. And I'm considering writing a front end for it because I think that there's an app front end for it that charges ridiculous amounts, but I think the main engine for it is open source from what I can tell, and it looks really cool. If I can arse myself enough, because I'm having enough fun playing with the free-to-play version. But yeah, it would be very cool to make my own interface and then make that available if need be. Now, so Balboa moved into here, and the first player, Blue, played an ambush on him, mainly figuring, well, Balboa is the second best position right now, and the first guy is really not needing to find anything. And then Almagro, who really is in competition with him, with Balboa at this point, played the human sacrifice card. And oh boy, down 2-1, first of all, a morale hit. And down 2, one for a unit taking a hit, and then another one because a unit got eaten. Well, got taken, it got beaten. So units getting eaten and units getting destroyed combined in there. It wasn't a big force either, but, it doesn't have to be. It just, because it's doubled and all that, so, yeah. And that'll be, he's not done yet because Pizarro is going to play, or someone has a lost card they're going to play on him. I mean, we really just don't want someone else finding an empire, especially on this, especially these guys on this map. They're like, well, the only thing I can do to stop him is this. This is already established. We'll work our way towards that and conflict directly with Almagro. Lost card does no good, and neither did the battles. I found myself an empire here and here, and the king ended up here. And so, no points for it, but now I got something I can start mining. Plus, I'm right with the king. This guy has to go through a discovery to get to the king. And Cordoba found another one. Boom, boom, boom. No one had anything bad left to play. It's one of the problems with getting first in initiative. You kind of want to not do anything because, if you're in the running for being bad, like for being a target, there's just sort of something in human nature about, at least in my human nature, about, oh my, I got this card, and if I hold it too long and don't spend it, something bad's going to happen, and I remembered it right now, so yeah, I'll play it now. I mean, all things being equal, right? Now, he's the one who played the attack card. The lost card, I think, was Pizarro. Mixed feelings on Pizarro, because if he doesn't find his empire here, well, he might come down my way and cause me more problems. So maybe I would have been better off holding that off for here. It didn't really help in either case, though. Magro made the choice to play an Indian uprising. Well, it's his turn, so yeah. Against Cordoba here. Unfortunately, that's not as good. It doesn't double. The cav can be used. So, yeah, it's just wiped out. Now, what it does do that is of some value is it turns the city hostile. Which, now he's in a position where diplomacy is no longer a working tactic. Or, well, it is. It's just not as effective a tactic. And I don't have a particularly good diplomacy. I might have a card that helps me with it. But then diplomacy means that people have all their bad cards that, haven't been played yet. I may have another one that I want to play, which is, in fact, I can guarantee that I do. Cancels an arrest warrant. Nobody's got one. Disgruntled soldiers, which I'm going to play against Balboa here. Pissing off the guy with the poison darts. That's all I'm saying. So, roll a d6, add the morale hits. I'm only a +1. I'd maybe be better off waiting, but there's no guarantees. This hasn't turned hostile. I could have turned that hostile, but then, you know, I'm putting all my effort against Balboa when this guy is sitting on an Imperial city too. Roll 1 dice, add the number of morale hits. Okay. Nothing happened. You need to have. But, you know. And what am I going to do with him? I have a morale hit. I don't have food. I'm sitting in an Imperial city. That's not the best place to get food, but I can get other things there as well. I'm going to go for the diplomacy of 2. And now we're going to search, and people are going to look for their nasties. They might be holding them for me anyway. Jumping partway in to the Almagro turn, while he was doing his diplomacy, Cordoba played this, giving a -1. Now this guy had a -2. He chose not to play it. He figures, well, -1 with the Imperial City, that's bad enough. Balboa played poison darts, tried to kill him. That didn't happen. But actually that -1, total of -2, isn't all that great. But I rolled, well, it's not too bad. I rolled low enough. It ends up hostile. We got troops coming. Nobody has any cards left to influence troops unless he has something now. So that's 68. But I get a first fire on it with 16 at +2 combat, which isn't great. My force is getting smaller. I get a 9. That's going to be 1 hit. I'll take one of the big guys down 20 points. So now I'm at 48. This is still the first round. And I can't run away after just 1 round. 6, that's going to be a hit. That'll be a cav that gets hit. And now I'm in danger of losing my cav. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And again, I'm at +2. I get a 10. That's going to do 2 hits, which is, you know, that's fantastic. That'll be the result there. But right now, I'm looking at 48 coming back at me. No mods. A 6, enough to do a hit. There goes a cav. And that'll be another point off of him. He's just hated, you know. And this is the thing with players playing all kind of nastiness. These governor points go down pretty easily. There's not much to improve them until people start getting gold, and nobody's getting any yet. Okay, that was 2 rounds. I could run, and running doesn't do me any harm, so I'm going to do it because I don't particularly want to be there. Now, because I ran, these troops stay there. This is the first time we've seen this. And they will attack any Spaniards who go there. These aren't just hostile to him. It's a hostile city, and those troops are hostile to any Spaniards. They don't really differentiate. Alliance, yeah, they get to know you well enough that they like one particular conquistador or whatever. So that did not go well. I think my goal here is to have all the conquistador expeditions fail completely. That would be awesome. That would be very source of denial. And it would please me because most of the expeditions probably, there were plenty of people who went there and just did not succeed at anything. You hear about some of them dying, exploring something, and they get some fame, So like Balboa, I think, is the guy who discovered Florida. That's a big deal. It's worth nothing in this game. This game isn't about exploration and discovery particularly. Yeah, there's the legends and whatever, and he was there after that. No, it was Ponce de Leon. No, not Balboa. Ponce de Leon went to Florida looking for the Fountain of Youth. And what did Balboa do? I don't remember. One of them went off to look for the seven cities and got lost there. So a lot of these missions just were spectacularly failed, right? And there's probably some we've never even heard of because, it's just these soldiers of fortune going out and looking for stuff. Now, it's fine. They might not be, players on the board, but the success rate was not necessarily that high. Of course, it may not be as low as what I'm seeing, at least for now, where nobody's found, people have found stuff, but nobody's gotten any treasure out of it yet. But yeah, I mean, we've got forces that are just getting weaker and weaker, and there aren't great answers for that. Okay, and we push through the rest of it. The white player here, Alvarado, did some diplomacy. He got a really, really high roll. He rolled boxcars, I think. Would have converted it if it were a city to an allied city, but it's not a sister town. So he got a gold, got another asset, a mano de Dios. He's got two of them in his hand. But you don't want to throw them out, man. And then Pizarro here succeeded in exploring and finding a town, which is a good thing. I know I've been playing a couple of impulses at a time, but I'm pooped. Last night really took a draining out of me. Really having trouble dragging myself back up here. I'll probably make another addiction video at some point because this is, I think it's interesting. I don't know if most people are sort of as aware that they're entering addiction, and it doesn't really, it's not like there aren't these harmful after effects that make it impossible for me to talk on video or whatever, or even to feel all that ashamed. Anyway, Balboa is going to do diplomacy here. I kind of screwed up by moving to the Imperial City because I have a civil war, which would have given me a bonus somewhere else. And Alvarado played a hostile chief against my diplomacy. That cancels out my bonus, so I'm basically just at a -1 due to Imperial City. But I get a pretty good roll. That'll get me a food. And I am going to take an asset. I don't have one. And I really think assets are useful. I get war dogs. Hey, they're in here. Yay. The expedition acquires a local dog who can sniff out Indians. No. Maybe played when an ambush is played against you. On a roll of 3 or higher, ambush is canceled after using it. You got a 50-50 chance of losing the doggy. So that was a pretty good result given a card against me and whatnot. The interactive games, I feel like I have to step in. I don't want to step in for every turn, but every 2-player actions or whatever feel about right if nothing exciting is happening. So Cordoba continued exploring. I'm in reasonable position, food, etc. I've got to make my way to the Imperial cities. I don't want to deal with the hostile city. And what else? The other one there was Almagro, who tried a diplomacy, needs to get food. We're getting, to the point where turns can end. Got nothing. everybody's out of their anti-diplomacy cards. Balboa, they played against, and you know, I mean, it's hard. It's like everybody's about equal, so sure, there's some slight advantages, but when you start taking this into account and everything, nobody's clearly ahead. So while there was a point where Almagro appeared to be the bunny, the leader, now that's not really the case. And yeah, that's that may be just a local term. I picked that up in Buffalo. A few friends of mine called it that, and it just has stuck with me throughout life. Alvarado got a kind of bummer. Just a town. This is the only 3 adjacent to this. There's no chance, well, there's almost no chance of getting a city over here. So I'm going to be scooting around this way because I don't think there's anything important there. I'm right, you know, the odds are that level 4 with a town is at -3. I'm not going to find an empire, most likely. Might have to try to recover some stuff. And then we go to Pizarro, who did a diplomacy, got himself a food, and a mano de Dios. At this point, I probably have enough assets that I kind of don't want to draw more, because getting additional assets, sure, it gives me a chance to lose assets and regain them. Oh, I forgot to modify my diplomacy. Wouldn't have made a difference. Okay. Yeah, it's hard for me to remember all the cards and whatnot. Always is. These card-based games with a lot of different modifiers and everything. I'm okay if that's the whole game, but when there's other stuff in play, it makes it harder on me, you know? So, like, I can play Magic the Gathering. I don't know if I still can. I could play Dominion. But when I'm dealing with a board representation and a lot of cards, it starts getting difficult to cope with. And honestly, you know, maybe I'm wrong there. I don't tend to play Dominion or Magic the Gathering in solo mode. You know, they just don't work that well that way. And that may be the case with these games that throw a lot of different modifiers and cards in at you. It's a good way of representing things. The unfortunate thing is, when I'm playing an opposed game, when I'm playing opposed in a multiplayer game, I'm focused on winning and on manipulating the game state. And you know, the cards work fine for that, right? When I'm I guess I have my issues. When I'm focused on the narrative, all that extra competitive type aspects of the cards kind of gets in the way. And the only times I'm focused on the narrative really heavily is when I'm alone. Now, it does happen. So, for example, I played Empires in Arms with groups, and then afterwards would, like, you know, basically jerk off over the map, imagining what the hell's going on, and then remembering later on and everything and all that kind of stuff. But for your normal one-session game, there's just no time for all that. What I'm worried about with this is it feels like you find your empire, you start mining it for gold, right? It's exciting, I guess, when you're looking for something new. New stuff is showing up and everything, but I get this fear that the game is going to kind of devolve into just a long period of resource extraction with very little else happening. In conjunction with, like, cards being played to make life harder on people. It's like, and this is why I, you know, was focusing more on a design that, like, worried more about, you know, this overall narrative of a single explorer or conquistador in terms of finding places, cutting the deals and everything, just a whole bunch of different options and whatnot to sway things back and forth. But here a lot of that gets abstracted away into just the card play that your opponents play on you. and that you're going to kind of be stuck in one area. That's historically accurate. But the thing is, once you take a certain scale, as it were, a degree of magnification of the game to look at, the particular choice here means that, and the fairly high victory point requirements, means that there's going to be this long period where you're just cranking out materials and you're trying to get the edge on other people who are in an equivalent position. Now, currently, Pizarro's way behind the curve because of the direction he went in, the finds that he had. And you could kind of argue that Alvarado is probably just about as bad off. But then the other three players have each found their empires and are operating, within them. So they're just getting started earlier on this process. Now, it hasn't started yet. They're still trying to kind of solidify their position. But I don't know if it gets more solid, right? I mean, other than getting something like an interpreter or something that gets you a bonus, there's not much of an engine to build up towards extracting those resources. You're just playing this luck factor to get them out. So Balboa did a rally, was successful. This fits into this, hey, it's going to be a long game of resource extraction, essentially, in concept, where the idea is, I want to avoid getting into a pathological situation that I can't recover from. I may not be in the greatest position, but I can kind of fix that a little bit and grab my food, grab whatever, and then I'll get to do my diplomacy soon enough. If you watched my, I covered, Merchant Adventures recently, which was a weird little economic game. And it was that I want to avoid pathological situations and I want to inflict them on others, especially that latter part, which really directed my entire gameplay. Which is, if I can handcuff another player, I'm free to win the game. The problem with that one is, or the problem I had there, was that everybody was kind of playing to screw everyone else over, and what ended up going on is everybody got kind of locked out, and the people who did the least won the game. Now, that's something that could happen in the old SPI Conquistador and Avalon Hill, but different game, but anyway. Where, if things are going badly enough for the other players, the person who just sits back and doesn't colonize for a long time until it's particularly valuable actually gets kind of a bonus off of it, which I find really, really intriguing because the tendency in the game is to get yourself established quickly, and you get points for exploration and all that. But your colonies themselves don't produce a lot of money. Their money sinks until the point where, say the British and the French are starting to colonize, unless there's gold involved, which is a different matter entirely. So you actually get there's strong reasons to play the game as it was historically played out. But most players want to get their pieces on the board and, start developing colonies right away, even if they aren't particularly economically advantageous. All right. Pretty much all the players have been doing that mechanical risk mitigation strategy, get rid of morale hits where they can. Alvarado is an exception. He moved forward, found another town, and not great because of this, but it's my only way forward, and maybe I go and exploit his empire, and that makes things interesting. If two people are kind of playing in the same area, that takes it away from that resource extraction and brings it to, let's see, who is this? This is Alvarado. He's going to be the white player. He's actually at -1, whereas green's at -3. It doesn't make a hell of a lot of difference, but he's in a position where he could actually buy off the danger of a warrant. But yeah. And, you know, the fact that this empire was sort of developed into existence by someone else's play means that me being this close to it wasn't that bad a thing, and the choice of, hey, I want to be further away from other people may not have been the best choice. It's hard to tell, you know, when you're first starting. Anyway, similarly, Pizarro expanded his down. Only a town here. I wasn't expecting more. I've got a couple of 3s that I can bop around to try to make this 4 a possible empire. We got the end of turn roll, and we check food. And drifting off the board, but everybody has a food. So that's that. I don't think there's any malaria check. Victory check, we're sure nobody's close to 200. There were no plunders or anything. So we move on. Let's do another turn on this video, I think. Hopefully, I'm going to be starting to get to a quicker and quicker pace like I did on that impulse. Because there's less and less, you know, I mean, with every game, there's less to learn about the game as you go on. And less intriguing situations happening. So otherwise, all you'll be seeing is me making the same kind of checks. And I pulled back a little bit more this time. Okay. I could take that marker off, but I kind of like the idea of keeping track of time. So back on another turn's discard phase. And people's hands seem to be staying the same. Most of them are very low numbers, but again, this guy's got a big handful of cards that are too good. I don't want to get rid of them. They all have uses. One of them is, you know what, is the El Dorado. I'm going to get rid of that. Give myself a little bit extra room. Because there are other cards, and I'm just not feeling like I'm going to get a chance to move this guy for a long time, because I'm heading towards this other empire now and whatever. Now, looking at Pizarro's hand, I see one problem here. I'm going to keep the exhortation. That can be useful for rally. But I've got this desertion. Now, there are people who have been potentially impacted by it. This Indian guide could have been wiped out. The bearers, for whatever they're worth. My own interpreter, which I wouldn't want to get rid of. But the problem is that's a combat card. So unless a combat happens with somebody who's impacted by it, it's really not effective. And since it's a baddie card, one to hurt other people with, I'm going to get rid of that, give myself a bigger draw. I've kept it because it's kind of nice to get rid of things like a guide or an interpreter. But yeah, you know, I'm just feeling this pressure of have to draw more cards. Because the thing is, if you're holding a handful of good cards and you're not using them, the hand that you're getting every turn is very, very small. And you may be leaving, you know, you're essentially not getting a bunch of kind of not great cards, but cards that get used every turn. Things like, you know, the local guide or whatever that give you a +1 on the search. Well, you don't want to hold that, but it's useful, you know, as opposed to a handful of cards that aren't doing me any good, but I don't want to get rid of them. Using a bit of something that I don't think should happen normally, a mechanism in play, because what I'm doing is I'm drawing my full handful of cards, contemplating the discards and putting them away. So far it hasn't been an issue, but I may not want to do that once I get close to the end of a strategy deck that's not, you know, due to be reshuffled anyway. Because the cards in the discard pile should be allocated in kind of a spread out fashion, rather than the ones that, you know, went through the last shuffle, but not this one. There's reasons for that. The number of Conquistadors, for example, that are present. This turn, that's fine. Next turn, I may have to go to a more natural dealing out the cards one at a time. But for now, I've been just grabbing, you know, whatever I need to get my hand of 10 discarding, because it's easier to process for me in solo mode. Some of those decisions are really, really tough. I'm having a hard time, even, with people who had a handful of new cards, finding 2 cards I want to discard, which you have to do. You draw 10, discard down to 8, or draw up to 10. I did the random events this time. The governor died. This is kind of nice for the people who are doing poorly. Everybody's governor marker moves 1 towards 0. That definitely helps some people, hurts one guy. And we're going to start the impulses, but I'm not feeling so hot, and it's my own fault. But I really don't feel like I can stand up here and play through a turn. Yeah, feel a little better now. So yellowish, greenish thing is going first. Couple of cards I wanted to play right away. Influence with the governor up to the value there. I'm also going to play a Conquistador. Now, here's the weird thing. The game doesn't really handle this. This should be in the errata somewhere. It's not yet. But when new Conquistadors come in, okay, on turn 1, it's at the start of the game. You just roll 1 up. On turn 2, it specifies it's at the start of the turn. It follows the same procedure. But it sort of says it follows the same procedure with these cards that you draw into your hand, but I'm just playing them like action cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this guy join my expedition, because I don't have anything better to put him. And it's not like I have a handful, although I have maybe one of these multi-move cards. But it's really painful to run 2 Conquistadors at the same time. So, took my turn with a diplomacy action, though. I got myself $7. I could take a peso. Shit off there. Keep less counters on the board. No real reason for them. Yes, I have some debt. I could have paid off debt with that, but an extra peso gives me more flexibility if things go really, really badly, say. And it doesn't really hurt me. Well, so that, remember, is like 2 victory points each, but I don't think we're near the end of the game. I picked up some food and an asset off that. Now, I'm trying to remember what I was at. Oh, yeah. I caught myself. So first of all, you can't walk through hostile cities. So I couldn't just move to here, which I was thinking of doing. But I caught myself in a problem. This is actually an imperial city. The little markings I put on one side, they got to go on both sides. I don't know how big a deal it is, because it's on the counter, but I'll probably end up marking both sides now. With the second player, the green one here, yeah, I know I'm going into way detail. I had an expedition. Support of the church canceled out some of my penalty, is basically what it is. Had this. So I'm starting a new expedition with Orlana, and moving that. I think I'm going to focus on trying to get a card I have, a wonder, and whatever they are, legends. But I got away with my diplomacy, so I have food for the turn, and not push things, but see if I can grab something cool that way. Haven't done it yet, so I want to try it out. And this seems like sort of the best of circumstances for having 2 expeditions at once. I had a card. Yeah, I could have had more. I got the expedition. I have the legend. So we shall see. Blue also did diplomacy, got himself a food, actually got himself an allied city. Is that the first one? Which is kind of hostile to other players, causes them issues. Then we go over, oh geez. Then we went over to here. He pushed on, got lucky even though a lost card was played against him, and found a city in a level 3 next to just a town. So that was pretty cool. He actually could use something. He's got a handful of nice cards if he got a Conquistador, but he's not one of the people who got one. And then we go last but not least to Pizarro, and I'm looking at his cards, and he wants to hit Balboa with an Indian uprising here. Whereas Balboa has more troops now. This Indian Scouts card can be used in a single combat or to prevent an Indian ambush from happening. Ambushes are kind of dangerous, so that might be more appealing. But I'm throwing an uprising with painted warriors. Now, I noticed, so the thing I wanted to say, I think I started and then diverted myself, is this, I think, is in the errata. This is a capital city of an empire. It doesn't have a backprint. It should. It should have a hostile backprint. Falls back with heavy losses. He's wounded. Which means I can't move. I'm in a discovered space, which means I won't be able to do diplomacy there, but I will be able to rally if need be. Heavy, heavy losses. Sends me back on the track again. And this is still here. And the king is here too. He shouldn't. That'll help identify that as a as an imperial city. But that's a really bad result for Balboa. And now we're working on the Pizarro expedition. I just, playing the cards was an uprising. So, Balboa's wounding here has opened up a whole can of problems for me. I can more or less let him sit here. If desired, do I have one of these, so if I needed to do something, maybe I could, but without him, it wouldn't really help. And I think this is what I'm going to do. Transfer everything except a small guard to him over to Ordros. And try to push on with the expedition, I guess, to get to the non-hostile city. Now, Ordros is not very good, so this is somewhat problematic. And I don't have any food with me if I do this. But on the other hand, otherwise, I'm giving up all my actions. I don't have another Conquistador. I don't have something else I can do. Balboa's wounding was maybe as bad as getting him killed. Next to Almagro is not moving. I moved Orellano instead. Found this space. There's nothing there. That's okay. I don't need anything. I've got a card to play there, and I'm going to do that next turn. For blue, I moved into the king space with my expedition. I have another Conquistador, but I don't particularly want to play him yet. But I do want to play him probably next round, just because the turn ends conditions. I don't want to risk having to hold the card. Alvarado, leaving him in place, continues on and finds another empire. So I've got my own empire to play with now. I don't necessarily have to challenge Almagro, but on the other hand, the empire that's near Almagro, or that he's operating in, the king is nearer to me than this king. So, don't know which way I'll go there. Over to Pizarro, something interesting. So I moved into here and did a successful discovery of town. And basically nobody has any ambush cards right now. People threw them out or whatever because they seemed less valuable. The big worries had already explored stuff and weren't moving into new areas. And I also am not getting the uprising cards. They're just not showing up. I think. Maybe I discarded them. Who knows? But so now I have the problem where I've discovered a town. There are no towns here. Now we know technically what I have to do, but it's not as simple as it might seem. So it's the furthest from any expedition. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 away. Let's remember that. I'll put that here. Over here, his is only 2 away. Not going to happen there. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. This is the most likely at 7. But then we have this long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So everything here is covered, is shorter than the distance to this town. And then there are no towns here that we need to remove. So this is the town that gets picked up for Pizarro. And you can see that can be kind of an obnoxious, calculation. It's probably not too big a deal if you screw it up. But it does make, this now an undiscovered space again. However that goes. Now, the weird thing is, I think it's just a matter of, hey, we didn't want to put countermix in, and you probably won't need those towns again. But it could open up some interesting capabilities, and ones that, there's no legitimate explanation for. But on the other hand, it's fairly unlikely, but people can actually try to engineer something to clear up a town if they have another conquistador ready that they could put into place or whatever. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Uh-oh. What were we at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's here and here, right? This is 7. You know what? I think this one goes instead. First of all, I think they're both 7. I don't know how I counted otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how. Yeah. Okay, so that got to 6, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. All right. I think those are the 2 6s. So odd, even, and we'll figure out which one. Yeah, so this one went instead. Not too big a deal again, though, because unless somebody really wants to go through this space, although to get back to Pizarro, it turns out important. And that'll push me to another turn. And, I'm having such a hard time wanting to play more than one set of rounds now, which is going to be problematic because I'm moving at a glacial pace, as is so often the case for me. Okay, so Ordos here has left Balboa with a couple of troops to protect him and some food in case I can't get back, and has moved to the city there. Nobody played anything to interfere. Then we go over here, and he's going to continue with Orellana, who plays the legend for the Mississippi, putting it here. Yeah, it's going to be, knowing the geography, it's like, no. But it wouldn't take too much of a modification, I guess, to run it down to Florida. But, and then I'm going to move into here. Now, I don't think there's anything that screws with these. I still have to do a discovery, and I believe I haven't checked this. I'm such an idiot. By the way, it's Christmas Eve. I uploaded my morosity about that, so, you know, I don't have to do any more than just mention it, except Merry Christmas and crappy holidays. Yeah, you know, I let the angst out a little bit, and I feel better. That and the video game is less important to me right now. I had to give up completely on just burning too many resources. So how do you find the legend is the big issue. Discovery. When an expedition enters a space, do not use normal discovery. Instead, use the legends table directly. Before they roll, you can play cards as you would against a normal discovery attempt. Okay, that's probably a good idea. As I mentioned earlier, and I didn't think it was, and I thought this was the case, there was nothing. Nobody's got anything. Nothing nasty. Before the player rolls the dice, other players can play cards. Some results can cause the legend to be removed from play permanently. Others cause it to remain on the map and be discovered again. This applies to the two rivers. Others cause it to be removed and returned to the pool. Okay? So, that's pretty simple. It's on this sheet. So I am on the Amazon or Mississippi. Don't see any modifiers, especially since there's no cards. So we roll some dice and see what happens. It's going to be an A, B, or C. We get a crappy 3. Expedition meets with a serious accident. I'm glad because the ultimate results of these are descending the entire river basin and stuff like that. That, you know. Now, here's what's weird. The Amazon starts over here, and it makes sense to descend it. The Mississippi, all the starting points are way too close to kind of justify the same kind of roll. But you can imagine that you're following it all the way up and then back down. It's just, wow, that's a lot compared to like moving a space on here, which can happen all at once. Oh well. I roll a 3. Expedition meets with fatal disaster. Conquistador and all units are eliminated. Ugh. You know, if I had a mano de Dios, I should have rolled. I don't. I shouldn't be checking it now. I should have checked it on the first roll. Okay, so this is destroyed. Now, I don't think that there's any governor effect to this. I think that this is just all gone. But I will take a look and make sure. Blue, and unless I have a mano de Dios, say I do. I'm going to force a reroll. An assassination had been successful here. Oops, that's an asset. Do I have one in hand? I would rather play the one in hand. This is exposed, so he was kind of a dumb idea to go after, but because it's exposed, I should have seen it. I still have an exposed one. Nope. Okay. The main reason is I just want him to get rid of that card. You know, make it for some use. And getting rid of a Mano de Dios is a worthwhile cause there. Let me think more about him. What does he need to do? He's got his food. I can't think of a hell of a lot I want to do here except more diplomacy, unless I have like another. I do have another dude. I have this Candia guy. I could bring him in and head him up towards the Mississippi since it's there. But I'm going to play a maze, get myself some more food. Always good to have extra food. I think I'm going to go for the diplomacy. So even though I only have a 1 diplomacy, I got to look at everybody, make sure they don't have an anti-diplomacy card. I think there are some out there. Warrant any? However, I got essentially no effect out of it. And then we moved down to Alvarado here. Now, I could have sent Balcazar off this way, but I don't have food. I have a morale hit. I need to take care of these things. So, plus I'm on an Imperial City finally, so let's go for it. Well, I turned the city hostile. Oops. And somebody plays Painted Warriors. Now, here's the thing. First of all, I don't know the order of when you can play. Like, can you wait until the chips are pulled? I don't think that's specified. I've been playing it. You got to play them ahead of time. I'm really not sure of that. But let's take a look at the card play there. It might be under strategy cards. Combat card can be played only during a combat. Yeah, it looks like a reaction card can be played. Yeah, it looks like there's not really an issue there, that it could be played after. But here's the thing. At first I thought, hey, I want to play Painted Warriors to get a big number. Especially, this is especially the case with the ambushes, right? Where the units are already doubled, and you're almost assuredly going to hit up at the top level. I think I would have played this anyway. Question is what the order would be, and this is the thing. You'd have to paw through everybody's deck and decide things. Once the counters came out, this Betrayal would have been good, but I played the cards ahead of time, which I don't think I need to do. So a Betrayal is going to pull this aside, but now this is only a 13, 26. That could actually still do some damage. So in a sense, the Painted Warriors are more important in situations where the enemy troop is weak. And the Betrayal will allow Alvarado to get those extra troops at the end of the battle. Okay, so the attack... Oh, I forgot to do the cav. All right, let's just start over rather than... so that's 16 cav at +2. And they get a 6, which is not going to do anything. These guys attacked back. I rolled the 2 for them. I'll leave it with that. They were 20-something. But now we come back here, and this is simultaneous with that die roll. 16, 20 at +2. 11, that's going to be a couple of hits. That wins the battle. These go back, and Alvarado now has these 20 Indians with him. That's a pretty big deal. However, my attempt failed. And, you know, that's not so hot. Probably head over to this king since he's closer than anything else, because diplomacy against a hostile city is particularly painful. It's an extra -3. It's an Imperial City. That puts it to -4. Might try to recover on my way here, just because Imperial Cities are harder to deal with. Pizarro finishes up with some diplomacy here, getting himself food and some scouts. We roll slight chance of end of round. Nope. Close. Next round it would be. And although I feel vaguely energetic and everything, I'm going to break again. I feel like I'm going into too much detail. Like this video is going to end up too long. Remember, it's 2 full turns on this one. Turns out it's actually only the 23rd. Ha ha ha. Oh well. The video that I made on it was the right video to make. But I am kind of bummed because I thought like there was this alignment that would be kind of neat. The fact, you know, like, to be going dancing on New Year's Eve, or on Christmas Eve, would be really cool. Or on New Year's Eve would be more questionable. Now I'm much more excited about the next one, because it means it won't be on New Year's Eve. And I won't have to deal with large crowds or anything. It'll actually probably be a pretty quiet night. So Ordos over here gets a successful roll. No mods essentially. So he got his food point. Again, took an asset. I just want, all the bonuses I can have, but the truth is I pretty much filled out my asset card, or sheet here. I almost didn't take this one, almost didn't roll for this, but this is the one I really need, one that helps me with diplomacy. The reason I didn't want to take it is too much chance of like getting another scouts. I don't think there are a lot of war dogs, but it's just, once you start collecting up a fair number of them, it's like your chances of getting something that you actually do need become lower and lower. And at some point, we have to start trying to win the game, right? By mining all that gold. Mining being a euphemism for extorting. Let's try to remember what happened, because a lot did at once. Almagro played an arrest warrant to weaken the blue player's position on the governor index. Now, I could have used the arrest warrant to make it possible to attack someone, which might have made sense. Alvarado's here. Getting his arrest would have been appealing, but I don't know. I don't know why I made that choice, because our forces aren't all that different, though, and Alvarado has as good a combat, so it's like, it would be kind of 50-50 if I fought him. And then Cordoba here tried a diplomacy, got a bad roll. It turned into a hostile city. Troops showed up. He won the battle. Sorry, over here. He was wounded, and now he's captured the king by winning the battle. So, that means on my next diplomacy, or on my plunders or whatever, I get the bonus for the king as my hostage, which is pretty cool. That puts me immediately into a better position and makes this shift a little less questionable than it was. I had a hard choice. He was sitting on a hostile city. He really kind of needs to rally and do diplomacy and all that, but things aren't good in a hostile city, and it's an imperial city, so it's even a little worse. So I moved with an exploration. Actually, first I played an arrest warrant on Almagro. So his company, actually, all of the conquistadors under that player, it could be other expeditions, is eligible for an arrest. Now, if one of the conquistadors dies, that arrest warrant goes away, and it actually clears his problem, which is one of the reasons I'm not so sure about an arrest warrant here. Somebody could arrest some doinker and clear Almagro, of whatever crimes he's being accused of. It's sort of somebody committed a crime somewhere and just bring one of them in. But also, if somebody just dies at random, it clears the whole issue, which you could see some arguments in that favor. However, the fact that the governor index goes all the way back up to 0 makes it, maybe if the governor's this upset with me, just continuing to push it further is actually just a better choice. I don't know, though, because I'm hoping to get an attack in, although nobody's wounded here or anything, so. And again, it's kind of a 50-50 fight, but I have a bunch of Indians with me, which does strengthen my hand a little bit. And then I moved forward and explored a city. I found myself another city, getting me close to the capital here, which is not hostile yet. So good things could happen if I go there, which might be better than Almagro. But either way, I'm throwing these arrest warrant cards out because, you know, the chances of the turn ending are getting too high. Zorro moves down another space, finding a town, and this is really becoming kind of obnoxious, the trying to find my connection location. Here, this one went at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on. I had a three-way tie. Shit. Okay, so this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, actually is the one that came off. Yeah. It's becoming obnoxious just in terms of there's a fair amount of different options that could be possible at this point in the game. That wouldn't be the case in a one-map game with just a couple players in it. It would be much, much easier, but the fact that there's like, you know, so much spread in terms of where people have moved, it is beginning to create problems. And then there's the fact that, you know, yeah, this is a nice long straight route, and so is this, but this one has 2 entry points, so it's, you know, more complex what the proper location is because of that dual entry. I ought to roll to see if the turn ends. It does not. I'm gonna stick around and play another impulse. Okay, so Ordas's expedition did a diplomacy, hoping to get some gold or something. I had a Civil War card. I actually could have played 2 cards for additional bonus. In a sense, I might be better being here because I can plunder. I don't know where the city is though, where the right city is. Oh, fuck. So this is Imperial. This is Imperial, that's the capital. But I'm not seeing the 3rd Imperial city. Was there not enough room? That's number 2. Yeah, number 2 got boned, so there's only 2 cities. So yeah, I mean, here there's some troops, it's not a lot. I probably could have beaten them, but instead of fighting them again, I'm going in this route. Part because I had this Civil War card. It's a +2 instead of just the +1 that a lot of cards give. Oh, I forgot to put the interpreter in. Hold on. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8. Ah, I got something. Okay, so actually we do get something. So I get an additional food with his group. I get my choice of a gold or an asset. Well, I'm gonna go for diplomacy gold. This is the first time we've done this. No previous rolls, no king. We haven't plundered the space this turn. It is an Imperial city, so that's +1. And a card modifier. This would give a plus on gold. This one does not. So I should have played the other one. Okay, so I think I was at +1 total. I get 12 gold. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so it accumulates relatively quickly, and I get a gold rolls marker up on this city. Because each additional gold that I roll is going to be at penalties for this turn. But I can roll for gold, you know, for several turns. Given how far I am from everyone, not plundering seems like a good idea, but if something turns hostile, it starts to become hard to not plunder the city. Okay, let's move on. Almagro's got food, no morale hits. I played Letter from the Crown to cancel out my warrant, so it's gone. It is an action card, so it can only be played on your own turn. You can't play it to react to prevent a warrant when used, as far as I read the game. It's not explicit, and you know, if some of these action cards are action reaction and they're just not marked that way and stuff like that, maybe it could be played for other reasons. But the way I see it, the only thing it can do is cancel an existing warrant. It's not how it's worded. It says cancels any one arrest warrant card, which, you know, it's been left in a fuzzy area. I don't mind trying to play it by the type of card it is, really, which is how I did the other thing, which is, oh yeah, somewhere it said you can use this card to cancel something that's, you know, would have to be a reaction, but the card doesn't say that, so screw that, or something along those lines. We also had a card that mentioned, yeah, there's definitely a number of things that need to be fixed, and they're not going to get fixed. The best you can get is they'll show up in the errata, because quite simply, you know, Compass releases, for the most part, aren't going to get many reprints. There might be some things like No Peace Without Spain that I think got one because, you know, it was so popular. But for the most part, it's not like with GMT, if a game is being released and you think it's going to be good and popular, you probably don't actually want to buy the first edition. Because, I mean, you might have to wait, you know, 4 or 5 years before a reprint. But a lot of the popular games get reprinted, and they're better. They're not just some errata fixes in there. They end up putting them in a better board and better box and better components overall. And they might add some optional stuff that comes out in C3I and everything. And you're just better off waiting and not buying games when they first come out. Especially if you're like me, and, you know, there might be a 5-year turnaround to buying something that you get. Okay. I'm going to have to swap batteries, but where am I? Yes. So Almagro is sitting here, and he wants to plunder. It's a hostile city with no troops. So we look for the plunder table, which is over here. All right. And this is a city. It is an imperial city. I still haven't marked these fuckers. I should. Really should say hostile imperial city or something. So it's an imperial city, but not the capital. I don't have the king captive. I don't have a hostage card. No previous plunders have been done. I roll 1 die, and I get 35 gold. Like I said, it really starts to accumulate, doesn't it? Some big money, big prizes. There we go. Okay. Now, I might want to divide that, but my morale's good. Might want to give some to the governor too. So let me give that some thought in a moment. But now I have to roll on the plunder exhaustion table. And this is an imperial city on a 4 or less on 2 dice. It's plundered out. It is not. It was close. And like with the gold attempts, we put a plunder attempts near that. I could stack it on the city, but right now I don't want to do that. The stacks are big enough and the spaces aren't all that crowded. I got to come back and see if I want to do anything with that gold. That's a fair amount. Just changing batteries, I thought of this. While you might think, well, you know, plunder is so much better. And I think these plunder attempt markers go away, between turns. So, you know, if you're kind of late in the turn, you might as well plunder. Sure, you might screw it up instead of diplomacying. It might be easier. Here's the thing, though. If it's not a hostile city and you plunder it, so hostile city with no troops, that's fine. You've wiped out the troops previously and none have shown up. Somebody could play an uprising to create more troops, but otherwise troops aren't going to show up there. If you plunder a non-hostile city, though, what ends up happening is it turns hostile, the troops show up, you don't get a plunder attempt. By the rules, it doesn't look like you get one at all. I think you should get one at the end of the combat, but I don't know. The rules seem to indicate otherwise. All right, going back to look to see if I want to divide the gold, give some money to try to clear this problem out or something. I have a lot of options here. and they're kind of spread about. But the one I was most interested in is, can I solve my governor problem? And there is a governor gift table over here. We're running out of space. So it costs 3 gold to roll on the table, period, the end. Every 3 additional gold gives a +1. I'm going to spend 6 of my gold to roll on this table. Well, I think I'm only allowed 1 gift per turn, 1 gift roll per impulse. So there's 6 of my gold, and that gives me a +1 on the governor table. That's a 9, that's pretty good. I go up 2, and now I've cleared my problem completely, and I can't be warranted anymore. Now, if I could have gotten 3 points, I wouldn't have needed to even play this, but who knew, right? I played it, get it out of my hand. Now, the next thing I might want to do is look at my debt. I'm green. Looks like $2 of debt. Screw that, man. Let's spend $2 and get rid of the debt. Okay, let us consider as well, and I'm gonna have to run down to do my tea in a moment. 1/5 of the gold goes to the king. 3 points for, oh, I gotta go. 3 points for each conquistador, 1 for every 4-footer cannon, and 1 for every 2 horse. And the rest would be mine. 3 for every conquistador other than the expedition leader. Okay. So I would be looking at 25 says 5 go away. Let's take this 2 away. I probably want to spend that for something else. I got 20. 3 of that goes to the conquistador. I'm at 17. 16. 15. I could put 15 victory points in the bank that can't be taken away from me. This may be a good idea. First of all, I'm going to spend 2 on pesos and give myself a couple bucks in case I get another expedition. That's money that, you know, I'm just not going to get for anything for. Dividing up the rest of it is iffy because I could use it if I need a big rally, but I want to get this gold out of my hand. So 5 goes to the king. We said there's 17, 16, 15 left. So I get 15 victory points as the green player. That puts me up to 20, not 200. And you can see, you know, with some good rolls and whatnot, how we can get to the victory within a reasonable amount of time here. How we can get to that 200. Now, in the basic game, the total was like 70 or something you have to get to, which is a lot simpler. And the standard game, you know, the difference between the two is in terms of like those numbers, you can turn the dial on those numbers to whatever degree you want. They don't say anything in the standard game about doing so, or in the basic game about doing so. They do in the standard game, but I could see somebody wanting to play a simplified version that's a little longer than the $70. The standard game, they talk about going down as low as 50, which seems a little extreme given that, you know, I just got 20 off of this. Why am I getting rid of them? Well, I think I've seen the theft card before for this player, and certainly if I had any awareness of the game, I would know about its existence. It's not that big. It's a D6 worth of gold, so it's really not going to make that big an impact. However, getting permanent victory points seems like a good idea. I don't know. Since I figured out how to calculate them and all. And that gets me to the blue player. Basically in an equivalent position. I've got food, no morale hits. I played a theft card. I only got 1 stinking gold off De Ordis, but that's fine. I'm in the Imperial capital with the king. So that gives me a +1. on the Imperial Capital table. I only get a 4, but that gets me 30. And I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that. Probably want to dispose of it as well if I can. A higher debt. I had 13 bucks in debt kicking around. Let me get this pesos out of there 10 times. So I spent that. Had less money to begin with. I spent my 6 bucks on governor roll, and I got a nice roll. That moved me from -3 victory points up to +10 victory points. That's pretty damn good. But the amount I have left over, 12, well, we'll put the 2 aside for a moment. 10, a fifth of that is 2. That gets me to 8. -3 gets me to 5. I'm not going to gain anything. So I'm going to hold on to those 12 gold. And they're with the expedition. It's just getting crowded over there. And that moves forward. Alvarado here played a theft card as well. He got a big 5 off of Cordoba. I just felt like he was the better choice to go after. Looks like he's in a better situation than Ordaz here. And I'm sitting in a city, it's not hostile. I have a morale hit. I may want to divide my treasure. Sure, I don't have much, but let's take a look at what I get. A fifth of it goes to the crown. So I got 4 left. Nothing for Conquistadors, I don't have an extra. 4, 1, 2. That means I'd get 2 victory points and a +1 on my morale check. I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. Yeah. I'm not going to retire any of my debt because that's 1 for 1 gold. I need the 5 to make this. And now I get +1 on my rally check, which means I have a rally of 2. Now I have a card that would help my rally. So let me look at this. It really helps my rally. Yeah, I'm going to roll. I only need to get rid of 1. I almost automatically do so. And I'm going to hold that card and probably not throw it out. But whatever. So, you know, we're seeing everybody kind of converting and getting some victory points at this point in the game. Who can. But now we're to the guy who can't. Well, he didn't convert for victory points, but he took gold. But the one person who can't get any gold is poor Pizarro. Although, to be honest, Alvarado converted without a regular source of gold. He just took it through theft. Theft of this guy over here. And that was all allowable because I had another conquistador. If I didn't have a conquistador there, I could not have divided treasure or anything. Pizarro has a shitty situation here because I only found a town. It's what I'm most likely to find, but when you look at town at 3, it's a -1. Luckily, I do have some scouts with me that'll help, so I guess I go in at even. I would rather be going in with something bigger because I've got still a fair chance of finding a town, and this will be hard to cope with. I'd have to go around this way to get another shot at it. Get a decent roll. This was a level 3. At 4, I do indeed find myself a city, which is the best that I could hope for. A city never penalizes. So now I have a chance of finding an imperial city over here in the level 4. It's still not great, but my interpreter makes it, or I'm sorry, my scouts make it more likely that there's an empire there. Go figure. That is the end of the road. Now it ends on a 2 through 7, and that is the end of the turn. I'm running low on battery. Subsistence. Alvarado, what are you doing? Why have you no food? What did you do? He did the divide. Yeah. He didn't take an action. That's what he did. I got so excited, I didn't feel like I wanted to take an action. Okay, let's do a diplomacy with him. I don't think anybody has anything nasty. Find the chart. Ah! That's useful. That tells you how many troops show up. That was something I've been looking up in the rules, and it was not necessary. So diplomacy. Let me make sure nobody has. Yeah, nobody has anything. Okay. So diplomacy is +1, and this is nothing exciting. I get a 9. I get a food, and I'm going to take an asset. So he feeds himself, but he also grabs an asset just because I want more shit. And it's another Mano de Dios, which are indeed played face up because they're not with a mission. Okay, so everybody here has fed. 2 expeditions have to feed. I didn't have to feed this one because it's over here. This one died, so I don't have to worry about that. Nobody's in malaria or anything like that. We do a victory check. We know more or less how many victory points people have, right? So our best case is green here, who has 20 victory points. Sorry, blue, right? Shit, I think I put 20 on the green. Blue did not divide. Yeah, green has 20. Break even. Blue has 10. It's hard for me to tell these colors apart, but blue has a total of 10. We're nowhere near the 200. If we were kind of close to it, then I would count how many points do you have for cities you're occupying or allying with. There aren't a lot of allied cities. Blue has one, and they're occupying a city, an imperial city. So that's probably about another 10 points there. So they're probably in about equal position as green right now. Now we remove the plunder and the rolled gold markers. And we've finally seen something happening in terms of stuff that looks like it's getting us towards victory, with people taking, 10% of their victory points. But at the end of the turn, right, from now on, those people are probably going to be continually trying to pull the gold that they get out. It probably makes sense for Alvarado to go here, especially since he doesn't have an arrest warrant against him, and try to work that king and his troops through. It's an advantage to get the king and to be in the capital. That gets you better gold returns. And it's, it's just a situation where now we're kind of in a race. People are still going to be playing nasty cards against each other, but almost everybody's in a position where they can start sucking gold out, except poor Pizarro. As good as he is, it doesn't help him do anything on the discovery charts. And the fact that he went so deep into the interior, that just is not working out well for him at all. Now, what's kind of neat is this is no longer, a boned space. I could also work my way up here. This is big. This is in a location where an empire could be discovered. At least on that one, and I think on this one too. So yeah. And even if it's all three, this empire would still possibly exist. We're late enough in the game, people could be sailing around up and down here. All right, that is it for this, the third and fourth turn. We're going to send it up, and I'm not going to be back again tonight.